Are you a music teacher struggling to find effective strategies to teach music vocabulary? Look no further. In today's video, we're diving into a treasure trove of 15 simple and powerful strategies that will make mastering music vocabulary a breeze for your students. Whether you teach middle school or general music, these techniques will help your students communicate effectively, analyze music deeply, and comprehend sheet music accurately. Hi, I'm Julia from Julia Teaching Resources, and I'm a music teacher with over 20 years of experience in the grades 7 to 12 music classroom. As a music teacher, I understand that it can be hard to find new and intriguing ways to engage students in the study of music, especially while trying to teach the essential music vocabulary they need to understand the elements of music. That's why I've created this video with 6 strategies and 15 lesson ideas that can help you get your students excited about learning again. So are you ready to transform your music lessons and create an experience for your students? Let's get started. Making mastering music vocabulary easy with these 15 simple strategies. Welcome. As I said, we're going to go through 6 different strategies with 15 lesson ideas underneath those. Hi, I'm Julia from Julia Teaching Resources, and my mission is to help busy music teachers like you in classrooms around the world with the resources that you need to teach music appreciation to inspire the next generation of musicians. Now, before we get started, if you'd like a free resource and you're thinking about making over your music curriculum, or you're maybe starting from scratch and not sure what to do, have a look at this one, juliaju.com/makeover your music curriculum. And there you'll get a free download that has 5 different ways, plus ideas on how that you can actually implement this in your classroom this coming year or next week. Up to you. Teaching music vocabulary for the elements of music is an essential component of music education, enabling students to communicate effectively and understand the intricacies of musical concepts. As music teachers, it's our responsibility to teach our middle school and general music students with the necessary music term names and their definitions. Continue watching to find out the 15 simple, effective strategies to make mastering music vocabulary an enjoyable and enriching experience for your students. But before we get started, what are the 8 elements of music? The 8 elements of music are the building blocks that are used to create a piece of music. These 8 elements of music, when combined in certain ways, can make the listener hear or feel different emotions or sensations. And we all know that when we listen to, say, a theme song for a horror movie, or if you're actually watching a movie and there's one of those scenes that, you know something's happening because of the music. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. So as a musician, understanding the elements of music provides several benefits to becoming an even better musician. So here's the 8 elements of music. Now, this particular mind map, I'm going to show you, there's another freebie that you'll be able to get here that has these mind maps in it. Now, the freebie does not have a colored version. It's just black and white, and it has space for the kids to actually write on it, or for you to write on it. It's up to you. But the 8 elements of music in alphabetical order from this one are dynamics, form, harmony, melody, rhythm, texture, timbre, and tonality. Now, you might call form not duration, that's rhythm. Sorry. You might call form structure, which I personally do, or you might call rhythm duration, or you might teach the concepts of music where pitch has everything under the umbrella is melody, tonality, and harmony, and that all comes under one umbrella. But the rest of it is basically the same, and the terms are the same no matter which sort of category you put them in. Oh, and I call timbre tone color. 5 reasons why music vocabulary is important. There are many reasons why it is important for your students to have a clear understanding of music vocabulary. The main reason is that having a clear understanding of music vocab empowers music students to communicate effectively, analyze and interpret music more deeply, comprehend music theory, read and comprehend sheet music more accurately, as well as it helps to foster a lifelong learning and adaptability in their musical pursuits beyond the music classroom. Now, I'm just going to put a caveat here. When I say read and comprehend sheet music accurately, not all musicians these days, and most of my kids in the last few years don't read music unless they've actually had special training or formal training on, say, the piano, or I had a lot of string players, or have a lot of string players in my current school. There's, most kids can't read music, but they can read tab music. All right. So guitar tab or bass tab or ukulele tab or whatever it happens to be. Or they can actually read those piano things where the notes are coming down. Okay. That is still a form of reading music. Whether we like it or not, it's a form of reading music. Effective communication. Having a thorough and extensive music vocabulary helps to serve as a common language among musicians. When music students have a clear understanding of music terms, they can effectively communicate their ideas, interpretations, and musical intentions with fellow musicians, instructors, or conductors. This promotes efficient rehearsals, performances, and collaborations. And I know in the past when I've worked with students, and if they can tell me what they are trying to achieve, I can help them, because if they've got the language to do that. So it's my job as a music teacher to make sure they have that vocab and those skills to be able to communicate that with not only myself, but anyone else that happens to be in the ensemble. Musical analysis and interpretation. Now, again, if I go back to my own personal music classroom experience, one of the things my kids have to do by the time they finish in year 12 is that musical analysis, and it's an oral exam. So I have a strong emphasis on being able to do this because I want them to be able to do it quickly because of the type of exam that they actually have to do. But no matter what you're doing, if you're doing some sort of music appreciation, or even just to be able to play a piece of music better, they have to have that analysis and interpretation skills. Understanding music vocabulary allows students to analyze and interpret musical compositions more deeply. It enables them to identify different musical elements within a piece, such as the melody, harmony, rhythm, or structure, or any of the other 8 elements of music. This knowledge enhances their ability to appreciate and express the nuances and artistic intentions of the music they are playing or studying. The next one is musical theory comprehension. Now, again, I'll go back to my own personal classroom experience. So over the years, I've been asked to do all sorts of things in the music classroom as a teacher in a grade 7 to 12 high school, okay, here in Australia. And one of the things was comprehension strategies. And honestly, I was thinking, this is like, how am I supposed to make this related to music? But you can. And I know that when they use the word text, I will use my text as it could be something we're watching a performance. It could be something we're listening to. It could be something we're participating in, or even reading the music. Okay. So when I talk about comprehension, we're talking about music, and the text is actually something that can be not necessarily just the written form. It can be anything that's related to interpreting the actual music. Okay. Or comprehending what's happening in the music. So music vocabulary is closely tied to music theory. By having a strong grasp of musical terms and symbols, students can better comprehend the theoretical concepts underlying music, such as scales, chords, intervals, and key signatures. But we're also talking like dynamics, performance techniques, anything, tempo markings, anything. This understanding lays a solid foundation for further musical learning and development. And I know as a kid, I never understood, like no one really sort of made the connections for me. And I know as a teacher, that's something I try really hard to do, is to make connections between what they're playing and what they're hearing and what they're seeing. Okay, so they go, oh, so that's what fortissimo is. Was that what those 2 Fs are? Oh, that makes sense. So I have to play that loud. Yes. Okay, so that's just an example. Reading and comprehending sheet music. Music notation relies heavily on music vocabulary. Familiarity, with terms like dynamics, articulation, or tempo markings enables students to read and interpret sheet music accurately. It allows them to understand the specific instructions and indication given by the composer, facilitating a more faithful and expressive rendition of the music. And as I said, I've had a lot of string plays, and there was this lovely girl I had a couple of years ago, and I was looking at her sheet music going, what on earth is that? Like, I have no idea what that marking is. And she had to explain it to me. And I was like, oh, okay, I've learned something today. But as I'm not a string player, so it was not something I was familiar with. It wasn't very common either. Lifelong learning and adaptability. So the elements of music vocabulary is not limited to a specific genre or time period. And that's the important thing. And that's what I love teaching about the elements of music, because it underpins any piece of music you are listening to or studying in class. By acquiring a broad range of music terms, students develop a versatile skill set that allows them to explore and appreciate various musical styles and genres throughout their musical journey. It also equips them with the ability to adapt to new musical experiences and continue their musical growth beyond the music classroom. The benefits of music vocabulary beyond the music classroom. Now, as music teachers, we know this, okay, but sometimes it's nice to be reminded. Having a solid understanding of music vocabulary brings forth numerous advantages that extend beyond the confines of the music classroom. Extensive research conducted worldwide has consistently highlighted the positive impact of music education on students. As music teachers, we recognise that the knowledge we impart to our students fosters their overall development and enhances their academic performance across all subjects. Now, I've got a video on this channel that goes into the benefits of the elements of music and music education on this channel. So please go and have a look at that, okay? Or if you're happen to be seeing this at the bottom of a blog post, there's another blog post that's all about that as well, the importance of music education. So by delving into music vocabulary, students engage in multi-dimensional learning experiences that enhance their cognitive abilities and nurtures a well-rounded skill set. Studies have shown that musical training improves skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and pattern recognition, which are transferable to various academic disciplines. Consequently, students who actively learn and play music exhibit heightened academic performance across the entire curriculum. And I know I've seen that so many times, that my best performing students are not necessarily just performing really well in music. They're doing really well across multiple disciplines. And we're not talking just all the creative side subjects either. I'm talking in the sciences, in English, in PDHPE was what they call it here in Australia, but it's basically study PDHPE. Anyway, I won't go any further. Do this page again, do this page again, do this page again. By delving into music vocabulary, students engaged in a multi-dimensional learning experience that enhances their cognitive abilities and nurtures a well-rounded skill set. Studies have shown that musical training improves skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and pattern recognition, which are transferable to various academic disciplines. Consequently, students who actively learn and play music exhibit heightened academic performance across their entire curriculum. And personally, I've seen this so many times, that my kids who are the top of my class are the top of the class in multiple subjects. We're not just talking music here, and we're not talking just creative subjects either. We're talking in maths, the sciences, English, in other studies like ancient history, modern history, all those sorts of things. Moreover, music education promotes creativity, self-expression, and emotional intelligence. When students understand music vocabulary, they become proficient in articulating their musical ideas and emotions. This ability to effectively communicate and connect with others translates beyond the realm of music, empowering students in their personal and social interactions. Ignore that train going past. The impact of music education extends far beyond the confines of the music classroom. It equips students with a comprehensive set of skills that enhance their academic performance, foster creativity, and develop their social and emotional intelligence. By nurturing a strong grasp of music vocabulary, we empower our students to thrive in various areas of their academic journey and become well-rounded individuals capable of excelling in all subjects. And as I said, I'm sure as music teachers, you have seen this as well. The kids who tend to do well in music are doing well across the board. So let's get into it. Strategies to teach music vocabulary. So teaching music vocab should never be an added part of your music lesson. I can't stress that enough. Teaching music vocabulary, just like teaching reading to a student, should be embedded into each lesson and should provide your music students with multiple ways to engage with the music vocabulary being studied. So the 15 lesson ideas that I've got for you fall under 6 main methods. Now, these are research-based. This is not something I've made up. I've gone and researched it and made sure that there's things that you'll be able to take something away from any of these, okay? And some of them you will actually already do, and you'll be able to say to, if you're being observed, well, actually we're using learning by blah, 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 okay? So please use that and take that information so to your advantage, okay? So the 6 main strategies, though, are explicit instruction, implicit learning, I can never say this one, mnemonic techniques, vocabulary and context, visualization, and grouping. Oh boy, sorry. Explicit instruction, music, vocabulary strategies. Now, this one's pretty obvious, but I will still go through it anyway. So explicit instruction refers to a systematic and structured teaching approach that clearly and directly conveys information or skills to learners. It involves explicitly stating the learning objectives, breaking down complex concepts into manageable steps, providing clear demonstrations or explanations, and offering guided practice and feedback. The emphasis is on explicitly teaching specific knowledge or skills, ensuring learners understand and master them through direct instruction. To teach music vocabulary in an explicit way means to use direct instruction to teach each music term that you want your students to know and understand. This could be done in several ways, but the important thing is to provide your students with several opportunities to engage with music vocabulary. Now, when I'm teaching the elements of music and the terms that go with it, I like to start here, and everything else sort of comes in afterwards. But this is where you start so that you've got a good, strong foundation for your students, or your students have a good, strong foundation to build on. So things like simply just writing out the definitions, giving them the opportunity to research and find out the definitions on their own, or matching terms to definitions. So the idea is you want them to actually have some sort of experience with the definitions, the term and definition first. You want to write it out. You want to be able to hear it. You want to be able to play it, okay? But that matching terms and definitions would come after. All right, and I've got lots of videos on this channel explaining how to do those sorts of games. To make it easier for you to do this with your students, the Elements of Music Definition Bundle has a wide variety of activities that you can use to explicitly teach your students the music vocabulary you want them to know. You might also want to watch this video, which I'm going to show you in a minute, that has 3 different ways to use the music vocabulary cards. And you can use, go to my store and type in, go to Julia Teaching Resources and go to the Elements of Music Definition Bundle. Now, in that bundle has all the 8 elements of music, okay, plus lots of different activities for kids to learn the definitions, write the definitions and all that. And there's lots of different fun ways to do it. So it's not just one way and that's the only way, okay? It's got to be something that you enjoy plus your kids enjoy. So on this channel, there's this video, 3 fun and easy definition for music terms games for your music class. And again, that uses the cards that are also available in my store. And I know if you're following this in real time, I actually did a video talking about this last week. So the next one is music vocabulary and implicit learning. So implicit learning refers to the acquisition of knowledge or skills without conscious awareness or deliberate instructions. So it's something they get along the way. It occurs through exposure to patterns, regularities, or experiences in the environment, which are gradually internalized and learned implicitly. Unlike explicit learning, which involves conscious effort and intentional instruction, implicit learning happens implicitly, often through observation, repetition, or unconscious processing. The acquired knowledge or skills are typically applied automatically without explicit awareness of the underlying rules or principles. Now, most of our kids, if they are not having formal music training, are learning implicitly. So they're learning these things. And I've had so many students who have work these things out on their own because they've performed and played on so many for so many different pieces of music. So they learn things, along the way. As music teachers, we know that our students learn music terminology and vocabulary the best through experience, hands-on. We know that. As music teachers, we probably find that implicit learning for our students is a more natural way for them to learn. As our students progress and as musicians on their instruments, the pieces they learn gradually get more difficult. And along the way, our students learn and pick up music vocabulary and terms in the music that they are performing or studying. A few ways to further our students' vocabulary through implicit learning is to simply ask questions. These questions can be used for a student performing a piece of music, composing a piece of music, or even listening to a piece of music. Some basic questions you might want to ask about each of the elements of music are on the next slide. Now, before I go there, in my store, again, there's the Elements of Music listening bundle. Now, there's lots more questions in there that go a little bit deeper for each element of music. But this is a good place to start. So here's each of the 8 elements of music. And these are just simple things that you might want to do. Dynamics. How loud should we be playing this piece, part, or section? Harmony. Can you describe or show me a section of the music that uses harmony? All right. So it might be that, you're playing recorders, all right, and everyone's playing the same melody. And then maybe the next section breaks into 2 parts. That's where the harmony comes in, okay? Melody, what instrument or instruments is performing the melody? Rhythm, what is the time signature of the music? What is the tempo of the music? Structure, can you show me the different sections of the music? Texture, can you describe the overall density of the texture in this music? Timbre, can you describe the methods of sound production or any performance techniques in this piece for your instrument? Tonality. What is the overall tonality of the music? Is it pleasant sounding, unpleasant, major or minor key? Now, again, these are just simple questions that you might want to ask. And I would suggest that you don't ask them all because it depends on where you are with your students and their learning journey. So if you've done, say, maybe dynamics and rhythm, which tends to be the order of things that people do, then you can ask those questions. And then when you actually start studying melody, ask questions around that. But it's all learning as they go. Music vocabulary, mnemonic techniques. I said it right this time. Mnemonic techniques are memory aids or strategies that help individuals remember and retrieve information more effectively. These techniques often involve using patterns, associations, or visual imagery to link new information to pre-existing knowledge or easily remembered cues. By creating mental associations or organizing information in a memorable way, mnemonic techniques can enhance the encoding and retrieval processes, making it easier to recall information when needed. Now, we know as music teachers that we use this all the time, okay, especially when we're teaching the notes on the staff, whether it be the treble or bass clef. As music teachers, as I said, we use mnemonic devices to learn the notes on the treble or bass staff, but our students can also use the device for each of the elements of music. Try getting your students to create their own mnemonics for music vocabulary you are studying. When they create their own, they will remember it better. Okay, examples for mnemonic techniques include acronyms, okay, visualization, rhymes, and creating vivid mental images. And it's up to you how you want to do this. And look, we know that this is one way to learn, but again, if we talk about the notes on the treble staff, every good boy deserves fruit. But it's so much fun if you get the kids to actually do their own or face in the space, all right, that sort of thing. But I know personally, I use for the concepts of music, because that's what my state wants me to teach, even though it's all the same stuff. I use acronyms all the time, so that if my students are supposed to be talking about duration, I ask them to go total BP, R, time signature, ostinato, tempo, accent, length of note, beat, phrasing, rhythm. That's the things they're supposed to be talking about in their analysis. If we're talking about melody, they're supposed to morph. Melody, ornamentation, range, roll, register, phrasing, harmony. So acronyms are very powerful, and my kids learn those acronyms very easily because I sort of hammer it into them. They learn it, and once they've learned it, they haven't forgotten it. All right, the next one, music vocabulary in context. Teaching music vocabulary in context refers to an instructional approach that focuses on introducing and learning new words with meaningful and authentic context. So it's a bit like implicit learning, but not quite. Instead of teaching isolated vocabulary words in a vacuum, which is what explicit instruction sort of does, this approach emphasizes presenting words in sentences, passages, or real-life situations where their meaning and usage can be understood and applied. Now, that's a definition. Now, when I say real-life situations in the music classroom, we are talking about on the page, what we're listening to, what we're actually performing, okay? By providing students with contextual cues, sorry, there's a select there, it shouldn't be there, such as surrounding words or phrases or the overall context of a text, teaching vocabulary in context helps learners grasp the meaning of words and their nuances, as well as develop a deeper understanding of how words function within a specific context or how terms function within a specific piece of music. This approach promotes more effective and lasting vocabulary acquisition and retention compared to rote memorization or isolated word drills. We could get our kids to repeat the words after us and do all those explicit learning instructions, which is great. There's a place for that, but it's actually better if we can actually embedded into the music we're listening to, or the music we're performing, or even the music they're composing. Rather than bombarding your music students with abstract definitions, bring music terms to life by providing real-life examples and practical applications through listening or performing. Show them how these terms are used in different musical contexts and encourage them to identify and understand their significance. Visualization of music vocabulary. Visualization of music vocabulary refers to the process of creating mental images or visual representations to aid in understanding and remembering new words or concepts. It involves using one's imagination to vividly picture the meaning of a word or associate it with a concrete image or scene, or maybe visualize it being performed on the instrument. The same. By engaging in the visual senses, visualization enhances memory and cognitive processing, making it easier to recall and comprehend vocabulary. Visualizing words can involve creating mental pictures, drawing diagrams, or using visual aids such as charts, illustrations, or videos. The goal is to harness the power of visual imagery to enhance vocabulary acquisition and retention. To use visualization in your music classroom, using visual aids such as posters, charts, or flashcards can be an invaluable tool for helping students visualize and remember music terms. Create visually appealing materials that represent the terms and their meanings, enabling students to make connections between the words and their corresponding visuals. Now, in that definitions bundle, okay, the Elements of Music definitions bundle, there is the one pages which do this. And I know I've used them for quite a few years now, and I get my kids to not only write a definition, but to draw an image for it and to color it. And it sticks with them. There are several simple activities to help your music students visualize the music vocabulary they are learning. There are 2 lesson ideas below, and they can be done without any printing. Just give your students paper, pens, and colored markers to let their creativity flow. So you don't have to print everything out. And I don't like doing that myself. I prefer to, like, my kids always have an exercise book to actually write into, and that's what they do their work on into that book. So one of my favorite ones is word definition image. For this simple activity, give your students the music term and definition. They copy that out and then they draw an image that will help them remember the term. And it's all about that image, okay? And so it doesn't matter what that image is, it's how they remember it, okay? So they will connect that image to that term. The next one is the KIM strategy, which is another good one, which I like to use. There is another easy one to do with your students and requires very little from you, the teacher. KIM stands for keyword, information or image, memory clue, and sentence or statement. You can watch this short video, which I'll show you the thing which explains the KIM strategy very easily. And I said you can use the information or image. It's up to you whether you want to do it. So yeah, so if I'm going to do this for music, I will do the term for the keyword. I'll do image. All right. Sorry, my cat's starting to whinge at me. And then I will do get them to do a memory clue, or you can swap those around and then put them into a sentence or statement. Okay. So again, on this channel, this is what this looks like. So using the KIM strategy to learn music terms. So this is a nice simple one. To make using visualization easy for you, there are a few products you might like that are listed below. So these are all available in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. Memory terms cards bundle. That is perfect for so many different things. There are instructions on how to use these included in the resource, and there'll be a lifelong tool that you will use year after year after year. And I know my own sets of cards I've been using for 10, 15 years. I really can't remember how long ago it was. I'm sorry. Music terms bundle. These are colorful and visual music terms that already have the term definition and an image to help your students remember the music vocab. Try using as a word wall, or print them forward a page and use as flashcards. Now that one, as I said, it's a very colorful one. I like using that as my display when I'm going through the explicit learning phase. And we talk about, it's all up there, the term, the definition, and then I've always got some sort of clip art on there so that it helps the kids remember it. But I encourage them to actually draw their own, okay? And the next one is the music terms definition bundle, which I've been talking about a bit already. But that one has quite a few different activities in there, which include one pages, which are very visual. But there's also match the definition, unscramble the words, code breakers, word searches, alphabetical order. I can't remember what else I put in there. All right, the last one is grouping. Grouping vocabulary refers to the process. The last one is grouping. Grouping vocabulary refers to the process of categorizing or organizing words into meaningful clusters or groups based on their shared characteristics, themes, or relationships. It involves identifying similarities and connections or patterns among words and grouping them together to facilitate understanding and retention. By organizing vocabulary into groups, learners can see the relationships between words, which aids in building connections and associations. Grouping vocabulary can be done based on various criteria, such as semantic relationships, word families, parts of speech, or thematic categories. And when we're talking about relationships in music, we're talking about maybe the relationship under a particular element of music. So you could give them a stack of terms and say, okay, now group them under each element. All right. This approach helps learners to make sense of vocabulary more effectively and enables them to learn and remember words in a more organized and structured manner. And it's funny, when I do this sort of activity with my kids, I always say to them, where else could you actually use this skill? And it takes a while, but sometimes they realize, oh, we actually could do this in science because we're grouping different animals and different things according to certain criteria. So it's a good way to actually make sure that they are connecting what they're doing in the music classroom with what they're doing in other subjects. An easy way to group music vocabulary with your students is through the 8 elements of music and by using mind maps. Now, the free mind maps are at juliagia.com/free mind maps. And if you go to my juliagia.com website and all the elements of music pages there, all the blog posts that are actually all on the elements of music, they have each of the elements of music mind maps in there, which you can use to help your kids. Okay, they're blank. These ones here are the blank version, so that the kids can write on them and draw on them and do what they need to do and make it visual and make it so not only visual, but they're grouping as well. So using the mind maps is the best done when you use other hands-on manipulatives like the music term cards, which I was talking about, the memory cards, music memory cards. With these two resources, try some of the following lesson ideas. You can group all the terms for the element of music being studied into a mind map, or try putting your students in small groups and have them work together to add each term where they think it is best placed on the mind map. There are so many different ways to do it, and here's some of the ways you can do it. So you could use the mind map with the term cards as part of a listening activity. As the students listen, they add the different terms to the appropriate place on the mind map. You could use the mind map and terms as a way to map the performance of another student on a video or any other performance. You could also use the mind maps and terms to analyze a composition. And you could use the mind maps and terms to plan performances and compositions. And I have to say, I've used all those strategies and it works really, really well. And not only is it that grouping strategy, but it's also that visualization strategy. And kids really seem to, if they can't just put things on the page straight away, sometimes that activity of mind mapping and putting things into sections makes it easier for them to break down and go, oh, now I can actually talk about that part. Now I can talk about this part. So mastering music vocabulary doesn't have to be a daunting task for middle school and general music students. By implementing these simple strategies, you can create a vibrant and engaging learning environment where students can confidently navigate the world of music terminology. Remember to adapt these strategies to suit your students' needs and make the learning process enjoyable, interactive, and meaningful. Empower your students with a solid foundation in music vocabulary and watch as their understanding and appreciation of music soars to new heights. So if you'd like some more, don't forget, there's that free download about making over your music curriculum. So go to juliagia.com/make over your music curriculum, all smooshed together, and you can get that 5 ways to make over your music curriculum download for free. And if you'd like to, the elements of music mind maps, again, this is just to remind you, juliagia.com/free mind maps, and you'll be able to get your hands on a set of the elements of music mind maps. And if you'd like to know more, you can always find more information on this channel, this YouTube channel, or over at my blog, juliagia.com, and everything about the elements of music resources is on the website. And if you'd like to buy some of these resources that I've been talking about in this video, go to my Teachers Pay Teacher store over there. It's called Julia Teaching Resources. And thank you so much for watching. So I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with all the different ways that you can actually use for teaching music vocabulary, but you'll find that you don't have to use them all. And I suggest you don't use them all. You find what works for you and what works for your students. And it's funny because from year to year, I will say maybe use one strategy, and the next year I'll start using it, and the kids go, oh, that doesn't work for them. So I have to swap to another strategy. So it's good, always good to have lots and lots of different things in your teaching toolkit so that you can actually make it really easy for your kids to learn the music vocab that they need to learn. Until next time, I'm Julia from GE Teaching Resources. Happy teaching. Bye.